Regulators, mount up.
I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you're new, I do want to let you know that Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the Sabby and JB show, and you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sundays. I want to give a shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We have breaking news that we're going to start off with. So much to get into, folks. I can't believe this is happening. I guess I shouldn't be surprised by anything at this point in time. I actually just had to update the title of the stream because this news just broke and is connected to the ceasefire story. But tonight's theme, ladies and gentlemen, is regulators. Regulators, just like the song from Warren G back in the day. Because that's what a lot of this is really about. People who are regulators, those who are making demands, those who are overseeing certain practices, certain policies, and ultimately impacting our lives, my life, your life. You know where I'm coming from. And tonight you're going to see who those regulators are, right? So we are going to start with that breaking news. But first and foremost, I do want to give shout outs to people in the chat, ladies and gents. Hello. Lots of people in the chat. Let's go ahead and start at the beginning. What's going on? Blockbuster says hi. Greetings, Barb said Israel already blew it, bombing Gaza again, saying it was Hamas, FKBB. Yeah. Shout out to Moo says, I don't believe Israel, US, but I know their goal is to make us lose hope and stop caring about this. One day, Palestine, Sudan, and Congo, and everywhere else facing oppression will be free and liberated. That's right. Shout out to Harm City says, when does this start? Right now. Greetings. Rain says laws are great but worthless without enforcement. I reiterate what Greta Thunberg said about having to do what our governments should be doing. What the hell is the enforcement? Yeah. And I think this is the outrage that a lot of us have had over the course of this genocide, is that there just seems to be no enforcement. Shout out to Mr. Moto, said we need a soundtrack while we wait. You know, they should make that available, like on StreamYard while people are waiting. Greetings, Chrome says peace and love, Sabby. Shout out to Bruh, says we should reincarnate Robert Johnson so he can be your guitar player. Okay. Shout out to Togetic, says I would like the ceasefire to be real, but I can't believe Israel will do what they want, will do what they say. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Guys, be sure to answer that poll that is linked to the live chat. Shout out to Hannah G, says, I'll be waiting. What's going on? Myra says, hi, everyone. Shout out to Bill, says, how will Israel break the ceasefire this time? How fast? Well, we're going to get into all of that. Shout out to Peace, says, free Palestine now. Greetings, yo, sends watermelons. What is up? Greetings, Kermit, said Gaza is gone. Shout out to Shazmatica, says, hi, everyone. I wish what's best for Palestinians, but history has shown that Israel and the U.S. do not honor their word. True, true. Shout out to Corey, says, Sabby with the Warren G tonight. That's right. Hey, I don't know how old everyone is in the chat, but that is one of my faves. Regulators, mount up. Shout out to Volvo, says, hey, Cookie. Greetings, Barry said, on a mission trying to find Mr. Warren G. I know some people know the song. Some people know. Shout out to Barry, says, oh, this Barry again says, hi. Shout out to Edward, says, hi, everyone. Okay, I don't want to keep people waiting again. Like I said, we do need to start out with the breaking news that just came through. And this was my fear. And I think others were worried about this as well. So let's go ahead and show you that thumbnail so you can see what we are discussing tonight, ladies and gents. Hey, hey, hey. And we'll shout out patrons at the end of the show because I do want to go ahead and jump into this breaking story here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are discussing Alex Jones speaks out. Yes, yes. Alex Jones has some things to say about the news that Candace Owens apparently dropped yesterday. These are scary times we're living in, folks. Scary times. And I'm surprised that some of the people that I guess said that they were friends with her are not coming to her defense. But Alex Jones seems to be one that is willing to, right? So we're going to get into that. We're also going to discuss this story. Of course, Wednesday evening, it was announced that Hamas and Israel had reached a ceasefire agreement that they both agreed. Donald Trump said this is going to end the war. I would call it a genocide, not a war. And it's not going to end the genocide, in my opinion. But to go along with that, we have news that just broke about this very so-called ceasefire that Donald Trump wants to get this Nobel Peace Prize for. That is very concerning. And if you are an American, and in particular, if you are an American and you are in the armed forces, you need to pay attention to that particular segment because this is not good. And this is exactly what some of us were afraid of as well. We're also going to discuss Roland Martin versus Chuck Schumer. So Chuck Schumer actually went on to Roland Martin's show. And there is a question that he wasn't there long, but there was a question Roland Martin did ask him about the Democratic Party and their plan to, I guess, try to get more Black voters. And we're going to talk about that because I think the way that Chuck Schumer responded to Roland Martin tells you everything you need to know. We're also going to discuss what is happening to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene apparently has turned on the GOP, and this time not in regards to Israel. I mean, she's already been vocal about that, but this time in regards to healthcare. What is happening, folks? I do feel like we're in an episode of The Twilight Zone. I don't know. Maybe season 2. Not season 1, maybe season 2 of The Twilight Zone. I feel like we are there. And last but not least, we are going to discuss Douglas Murray. Do you guys remember this guy? Mr. You've Never Been? Yeah, well, apparently he has been outed by Drop Site News. We're going to get into what he has really been up to, and that plays a role when you go back to that interview that Joe Rogan had with him and Dave Smith together. So everything is coming out, folks. Everything's coming out into the open, including the breaking story that we're about to get started with. So again, tonight's theme is regulators. Regulators, mount up. Yes. Who are those regulators? If you have not done so, please do me a favor, ladies and gents, and go ahead and smash that like button. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Let's keep this party moving. All right, let's get into the first story here, ladies and gentlemen. Wednesday evening, Donald Trump announced that Hamas and Israel had both agreed to the ceasefire agreement. He said that this is going to end the war. Again, I would call it a genocide, not a war. But I don't think they're going to try to end the genocide. And just now, there is breaking news that is very concerning. If you are an American, if you have family members in the military, if you're in the military, I don't trust this one bit. Let's go ahead and get into it. This is what I was warning people about, right? When people told me don't talk about foreign policy, just focus on domestic issues. And I told you that foreign policy also impacts issues here at home. Well, here we go. This just broke. U.S. to deploy 200 troops for Gaza task force with no operations on ground in Gaza. First of all, let me highlight this. This is bull. This is BS. This no operations on ground in Gaza. So I have seen this before. Many of us, Mary, were thinking the same thing. Mary said, I saw that before. Yeah, I've seen this before. And some of you have seen this before. We all know what can come from this. And my big concern, and I don't know, my big concern, some of those troops that go over there, depending on how they feel about Gazans or people who are Muslim, etc., what are they going to do to the Palestinian people? And if they do something to the Palestinian people, are they going to be held accountable? I would tell you no. I think we all saw what happened in Afghanistan. If you're older, let's go back to the war in Vietnam. You remember the story about the My Lai massacre, about U.S. troops that abused, sexually assaulted, and killed civilians in Vietnam. Had it not been for Seymour Hersh, we probably would have never heard about that. This is very troubling. And I, all the people who told me this would never happen, here we are. Let's get into this. Again, this news just broke. The U.S. will deploy 200 troops as part of a joint task force for Gaza stability, with no Americans on the ground in the Palestinian enclave, two senior U.S. officials said on Thursday. Again, I don't believe that. The officials speaking to reporters, they said that 200 would be core of the task force that would include representatives from Egypt's military, Qatar, Turkey, and probably the UAE. This is a problem. This is a big problem. The official said U.S. troops' exact location had yet to be decided. Pause. So the location is yet to be decided, but you're telling them that they're not going to be on the ground. Goes on to say here, but they will develop a joint control center and integrate other security forces that will work in Gaza to coordinate with Israeli forces to avoid clashes. No U.S. troops are intended to go into Gaza, said one of the officials. Yeah, right. The official said it is hoped the Gaza deal, once set into motion, will cool tensions in the region and create conditions for negotiations on more normalization deals between Israel and Arab nations. So this is not good. I don't trust it. I don't think that you should trust it. U.S. troops, see, this is what I was saying. They have no reason to be there. No reason to be there at all. And if this is between Hamas and Israel, why are they sending U.S. troops? So let's just put this all together, folks. I'm old enough to remember the war in Iraq. I'm old enough to remember the government telling us that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. I remember them selling that war to us all based on a lie. So I don't trust any of this. There are some of you who are old enough to remember the war in Vietnam. You know where I'm coming from as well. I remember Afghanistan. The U.S. was there for 20 years. Devastated Afghanistan. There are children that were starving in Afghanistan, still starving in Afghanistan because of our operations there. There can be no good from U.S. troops going there. And this is what I was afraid would happen at some point. We don't send U.S. troops to go make things better for the people who are suffering, the people who are oppressed, the people who are being genocided right now. We don't do that. When we send U.S. troops somewhere, it's usually to help the oppressor or to be the oppressor. Just like when Woodrow Wilson sent the Marines into Haiti. Kuwait, that's another example, Alexandria. I just feel so bad for the Palestinian people. I really do. But from my experience, some of us who remember Desert Storm, the war in Iraq, from my experience, nothing good would come from that. And I'm just waiting for all the people who told me there's no U.S. involvement to say something. Even though it's U.S. weapons, U.S. money that's been funding Israel. This comes about right after this so-called ceasefire was announced Wednesday evening from Donald Trump. This was the statement that he made here. And I said it last night, and some people told me that I was being pessimistic. I'm sorry. I don't trust Israel, and I don't trust the U.S. government when it comes to war. I just don't trust it. He said, I am very proud to announce that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of our peace plan. This means that all of the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed upon line as the first steps toward a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. All parties will be treated fairly. This is false. I'll go ahead and show you the update about that as well. There is a great day for the Arab and Muslim world, Israel and all surrounding nations, and the U.S. And we thank the mediators of Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey who worked with us to make this historic and unprecedented event happen. Blessed are the peacemakers. So a lot of people are saying Donald Trump is trying to get like this Nobel Peace Prize. It's not going to happen. He already missed the cutoff for that anyway. But this is the statement here from the Gaza Hamas chief. Listen to what he said.
Happy to announce that we have reached a deal for ceasefire to put an end to the aggression and also to proceed to a permanent ceasefire and the withdrawal of the army and to allow the aid to enter to Gaza and to open the Rafah crossing from both sides. Happy to announce that we have.
Okay, that's coming from the chief leader there. So last night, a lot of people were pretty hopeful. And they were saying, okay, this is great. Both sides came to an agreement. There were kids here and they were joyfully excited. I was just thinking about this. Like, imagine being a kid and this is what you have to cheer for, that people will stop bombing you. But did Israel stop bombing them? Because, see, I knew this was going to happen. Now, Donald Trump is feeding people a lot of BS. In fact, listen to what he said here when he called into Fox News.
It's brought the whole world together. It's amazing. I've never seen anything. It's so good for Israel. I spoke to Bibi Netanyahu just a little while ago. He called. He said, I can't believe it. He said, everybody's liking me now. Meaning him. He said, I said, more importantly, they're loving Israel again. And they really are. I said, Israel cannot fight the world, Bibi. They can't fight the world. And he understands that very well. So it's amazing the way it's all come together. And it's a beautiful picture. I don't know if it could ever happen again. It was just a set of circumstances. Like, for instance, taking out the potential nuclear power of Iran. So many different things happened that were so amazing. It's a lot of talent involved, I'll tell you, but there is a certain degree of luck too. You know, you need luck also.
So first of all, again, so Donald Trump and Netanyahu are regulators. They're overseers. Netanyahu's an overseer there in Israel and also apparently in this country as well. And Donald Trump's an overseer here in the United States. And their job, especially with a situation like this, is to try to convince people that Israel isn't doing what they're doing, to downplay what Israel has been doing and is still doing, and to convince the American people, look, everything's on the up and up. You see, this is how this works. Everything's working out. Bibi told me people are starting to like Israel again. No, we don't. Because I'll tell you right now, if this all ended tomorrow, I still wouldn't like Israel. The genie is not going back into the bottle. But this is what they're doing. Remember, their job is to make you think that things are looking better. Things are on the up and up. And even when you see people like Marjorie Taylor Greene standing up against this, etc., when you see people like that speaking out, and now she's speaking about something else. I'll get to that. But when you see people pushing back and stuff like this, it's like, okay, people are complaining about the economy. People are noticing the prices aren't going down. Oh, no, people's wages aren't going up. The genocide is still happening. So their job as the regulators, and they are overseers, but their job at this point in time is to make you think that one of these things is going well. And the reality is it's not. Z Squirrel is on it, as usual. The new ceasefire deal is going to be a repeat of the January one. Trump will take credit and guarantee it. They let in some aid and get their sexual assault soldier prisoners out. Then they will restart the genocide again. And the new main line will be, we need Hamas to disarm, with Trump leading the charge on behalf of his masters. And this right here is another thing that worries me about him deploying American troops. Because I don't buy this whole thing of they won't be on the ground. We have heard that before. I feel like he's sending them there to prepare for something else. And they'll try to keep a lot of things from us, just like they tried to keep things from you about the Vietnam War. Just like they tried to keep things from us about the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. The war crimes that were committed by U.S. soldiers. Had it not been for Julian Assange, some of these things we probably still wouldn't know today. So this squirrel is on it once again. So let's get into this ceasefire a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about this. And then I want to show you something else.
And let's bring in ABC News White House correspondent Karen Travers and foreign correspondent Marcus Moore in Tel Aviv. Karen, what's the latest on the deal itself?
Diane, the president last night called this the first step toward a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. Now, this is important to note. It is just the first phase in this. And as you see there, all living hostages would be released held by Hamas. And there would also be a significant release of Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. And then the partial withdrawal of Israeli troops from the Gaza Strip.
Pause. First of all, Benjamin Netanyahu already said in Hebrew to Israelis that Israel is not leaving the Gaza Strip. We talked about that like a week or so ago. Second of all, notice how she describes the difference between the groups of people. The Israelis that are in Gaza are hostages, but the Palestinians that were kidnapped by Israel are prisoners. They're hostages. A lot of those prisoners, and this was released recently. Now I'm saying prisoners. A lot of those hostages that Israel captured from Gaza, civilians, innocent civilians. They had this process that they would do that if they can't capture whoever they wanted to capture, that they believed was a part of Hamas, they would take whoever they could grab. This is a known practice that they were doing. So notice how they don't call them hostages.
The big thing that's happening in the next couple of hours is the Israeli government ratifying this agreement. We expect that to come in the next couple of hours. And at that point, the 72-hour clock would start, and then we could potentially see the release of the hostages likely on Monday. That is what President Trump was telling some of the families of the hostages when he spoke to them by phone last night. So this is a very significant step, but important to underline still, this is phase one. But as the president said last night, this is a very big moment for everybody involved.
Marcus, what does this agreement mean for humanitarian aid to Gaza?
Well, Diane, this could be a huge deal for the humanitarian situation there. The overall plan calls for the aid routes to be reopened and reestablished, perhaps to pre-war levels, which, as you know, that was about between 500 and 600 trucks every single day going into Gaza. Now,
pause. They just exposed themselves. He just admitted to you that Israel was not allowing aid in. Now, all this time, they have told you, and Benjamin Netanyahu has appeared on corporate media outlets and has also told you that Israel was not withholding aid, that they were allowing aid to enter, and that it was Hamas who was stealing the aid. But here we are on ABC News, and he just revealed to you that they weren't allowing aid in. Going a little bit more here.
It's unclear right now the specific details of how this will play out, but certainly it will have a huge impact on the families in Gaza who are struggling to find clean water, food, and medicine. And just a quick point on what Karen was referring to in terms of the withdrawal. That's another area that we're watching very closely as it relates to aid going in. This plan calling for Israeli troops to begin this partial withdrawal to that yellow line. No other details really available at this point. But Diane, it would mean, based on our initial understanding of this phase one, that Israel would still control about half of Gaza.
Everybody heard that? They're not leaving. So, look, I want the best for the Palestinian people, but I saw this today, and this is what I was talking about. Israeli tanks are stationed along Al-Rashid Street, fired shells directly towards civilians waiting to return to their homes in Gaza City. I saw this morning. So this is what I'm talking about. Right after Donald Trump announced that both sides have agreed to the agreement, they've already planned a date to release the hostages, this happens. Israel was heavily bombing Gaza Wednesday night, even after that agreement was announced. So this, So people wonder, they're like, well, why are they still, bombing them if they agreed to this agreement? Because they want them gone. This idea of peace that these regulators, Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu were talking about, their idea of peace is one where Israel gets the hostages back. And Israel can continue to move forward with the other Arab nations. Remember, Gaza it's not a state. There isn't a Palestinian state. That's all they're talking about, is how Israel can move forward with the other Arab nations. They're not talking about how Gaza can move forward. And this is the warning I'm sending to people. Now, you'll see even here, shout out to Masab for this. This was published 3 minutes ago by Israel. It says that Gaza City is still combat zone and no one can return to it. Peaceful Israel, cute and kind announcement. And here it is here. Coordinator says, important announcement to all residents of the Gaza Strip. The area north of Wadi Gaza is still considered a dangerous combat zone. IDF forces are still encircling Gaza City, and it is extremely dangerous to return to it. For your safety, refrain from returning north or approaching areas of deployment and operation of IDF forces anywhere on the Strip, including in the south and the east of the Strip, until official instructions are issued. So you can't go to the south, you can't go to the east, you can't go to the north. And you can't go to the sea because Israel controls the water. Here's that yellow line that they're speaking of. I do want you guys to see this. Here's the yellow line here. They said Israeli forces would pull back here. That would still give them, to that reporter's point, control of half of the Gaza Strip. And I'll be honest with you, I don't even trust that they're going to pull all the way back to that yellow line. I don't trust any of this. The fact that those soldiers, those tanks, they were lined up like that, waiting for Palestinians to walk that path, that tells you everything you need to know. But Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, you see, they don't want you to know all of this. Their job is to convince you that things are on the up and up because Israel's reputation just can't handle it anymore. Just like the lie he told you. Bibi said people are starting to love Israel again. That's a lie. But they want you to believe that. And there is this idea that if you say something enough, if you repeat it enough, that people will start to believe it. And let's talk about these exchanges here, right? Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu's office said that Israel will not release Marwan Barghouti in the exchange. Israeli Army Radio reports that Israeli officials say the bodies of Yahya Sinwar and Mohammed Sinwar will not be handed over, which is what Hamas had requested, that they would get the bodies back, their bodies back, just like they agreed to give Israel the bodies back of the hostages that have died. You see what's happening here? So when Donald Trump said it was a fair deal, a fair exchange, no, it's not fair. And here's another thing I worry about. Hamas agreeing to disarm, it basically causes them to lose any type of leverage. And I still believe that Israel, they'll get those hostages back and they'll continue bombing the Palestinian people. I just don't trust it at this point in time because they have broken several ceasefires. Now, there's this issue of the Nobel Peace Prize. I thought this was kind of funny. Shout out to Clash Report. The Nobel Committee finalized its Peace Prize decision on Monday before Israel-Hamas hostage deal brokered under Trump, effectively ruling him out for the 2025 award. That's coming from the Times of Israel. So no Nobel Peace Prize for you. And I often question who they give these prizes to, right? They gave one to Barack Obama after he bombed all those brown people in Libya. They gave one to Henry Kissinger, the godfather of war. The Nobel Peace Prize doesn't mean anything anymore. They're just handing these out to people who actually not really continuing any type of peace. The Nobel Peace Prize should go to every activist that got on a flotilla to go to Gaza. That's who the Nobel Peace Prize should go to. Now, if you don't believe me, I want you to pay very close attention to what Donald Trump just said after they get the hostages back. Listen to this.
Looking ahead, what guarantees Hamas disarms and that Israel doesn't resume bombing once the hostages are released?
The first thing we're doing is getting our hostages back, okay? And that's what people wanted more than anything else. They wanted these hostages back that have lived in hell like nobody has ever even dreamt possible. And after that, we'll see. But they've agreed to things, and I think it's going to move along pretty well.
Did you hear what he said? Let's go back to here. Pay attention to this.
What we're doing is getting our hostages back, okay? And that's what people wanted more than anything else. They wanted these hostages back that have lived in hell like nobody has ever even dreamt possible.
Imagine saying that after what the Palestinian people have been through. So you see, once again, how they tell everybody that what is happening to the Israelis is more important. Like what happens to them matters more than what happens to the Palestinian people. Listen very closely.
And after that, we'll see.
And after that, we'll see. Why is there a we'll see when he already announced that the agreement was they get the hostages back and Israel will pull out. They will not occupy Gaza. They will not annex the West Bank. This was all in the agreement in the press conference that Donald Trump held with Benjamin Netanyahu. Why is it now after that we'll see? So what that means is that Donald Trump is not guaranteeing that he will not be okay with Israel bombing Gaza after they get the hostages back. This is why I tried to warn people last night. I saw people get really excited, and I was just kind of like, I don't trust any of this, right? After that, we'll see, he said. Look at Gaza compared to Hiroshima. This is Gaza on the left. This is Hiroshima on the right. We have a problem. That's what's happened to Gaza. But people like Ben Shapiro want to tell you, oh, there's no comparison. These paid influencers who are getting $7,000 a post want to tell you, oh, everything's great in Gaza. There's no starvation. Everything's fine. Gaza on the left, Hiroshima on the right. We are being manipulated and controlled by regulators, and everybody's not being manipulated, but quite a few still are. I saw a number of people falling for this last night. Some people I really respect too. And I was kind of surprised, like, you trust Trump and Bibi with this? Because I think Israel is going to continue to bomb Gaza after they get those hostages back. And because Hamas is deciding to disarm, they're not going to be able to fight back. This is where we are, folks. And now they want to bring in U.S. troops. Your brothers, your sisters, your sons, your daughters, now they want to bring them in. That's not peace. It's chaos and destruction. And that's what the U.S. government is known for around the world. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Thank you for the super chat. Fuzzy Balls. We have to oppose Ukrainian aid because a lot of that gets funneled to Israel. They have been allies this whole time. That's an interesting point you brought up there, Fuzzy Balls. Yeah. I do need to bring a guest back on to give us an update about Russia and Ukraine. It's been a minute. Thank you, Wasim. He is sending troops there to finish on the behalf of the IDF and let the reservists rest. See, Wasim knows what's up. I think a lot of you in this chat, you know what's up. Thank you, Sean. Make is not real. Palestine again. Thank you, Sean. Shout out to Billo Gali for becoming a Sabby member. Let's give Billo a big whoop whoop in the house. Thank you, James Bondage, who I hope is not in bondage. He said, snake thumbs up prayer. Thank you, Trusting Success. I'm sure he knows they are living in the same hell the Palestinians are living in, thanks to his buddy. Yep. Regulators, folks. Regulators. Let's go on to the next story. Can we go to part 2 there, Eric and Corey? Thank you so much. And Eric brings up a good point. All wars are MIC billionaire wars. That's right. That is right. Let's go ahead and get to the next story, ladies and gents. This one is a good story. It's a good one. At least I think so. Marjorie Taylor Greene is turning 2025 around. Marjorie Taylor Greene is being very outspoken, not just in regards to Israel, but now in regards to healthcare and the economy. And she is now, of course, getting more criticism because she is blaming her own party for the government shutdown. I know. Let's get into it, folks. Let's go ahead and bring in this article here from Politico. Senate GOP's Dem whisperer floats funding bill through late December. What happened to this? Oh no. Oh, is this a live update? Oh yeah, this hold on one second. Oh shoot. Did they change this? I'm sorry, guys. Hold on. Let me go back. I hate when they do that sometimes. Give me just a second. People are probably like, what the? I know they. Oh, okay. We can do this one. Okay. Sometimes they do like these live updates and like that's not what that said earlier. I don't know what's going on there, why that happened. Hold on one second. That's weird. I had to copy and paste that. Sorry, guys. I really don't mean to hold everybody up. I just don't know why they did that. Okay, hold on. Okay, I found it. All right. Yeah, they do that sometimes. Trying to copy the link. There we go. Okay, there we go. All right, Corey, when you clip this, you'll just have to please edit that part out because nobody wants to wait for all that. Okay, let's try this again. Marjorie Taylor Greene. So they are coming after her. MTG is putting the blame on GOP congressional leaders for the shutdown. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. Greene has continued to be a thorn in the side of Republican leadership in recent weeks, splitting from Trump and the GOP on a string of high-profile topics. Let's get into this here. MTG is continuing to buck GOP congressional leadership, placing blame on top Republicans Thursday morning for failing to pull the government from its ongoing shutdown. Now, she goes on to say here, I'm not going to put the blame on the president. She said on CNN, I'm actually putting the blame on the speaker and the leader, John Thune, in the Senate. This should not be happening. She's been a thorn in the side of the Republican leadership in recent weeks, splitting from Donald Trump and the GOP on a string of major topics, calling the war in Gaza genocide, campaigning for the release of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein, and pushing for an extension of the Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies. So we'll get into this clip here of Marjorie Taylor Greene. But before we do so, I want to say this. This is exactly what those of us who supported the squad members back in 2018, et cetera, this is what we asked them to do to the Democratic Party. We asked them to be a thorn in the side of Democrat leadership. That was AOC, that was Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, and Rashida Tlaib. They were the first ones to get through. And then later, Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman. This is what they were supposed to do. But they decided that they did not want to go up against Nancy Pelosi. But you see, Marjorie Taylor Greene has no problem going up against GOP leadership because unlike some politicians, she seems to be listening to her constituents. She seems to be listening to the concerns of her constituents. I don't know. I don't know if MTG maybe wants to run for another office down the road. Maybe she has other political plans. I don't know. But the point is, this is exactly what we were asking the squad to do, to go up against the regulators. And she is doing that. And I want you to hear her reasoning for doing so. So she was on CNN. Listen to this.
Oh, I don't think it's good advice that a government shutdown is going to help Republicans in the midterms. I don't agree with that. I also don't think it's good advice that Republicans ignoring the health insurance crisis is going to be good for midterms. I actually think that would be very bad for midterms. And I think that just not staying focused on America First policies is detrimental as well.
Yeah, and on that note, are you concerned?
Pause. Did everybody hear what she just said? So she gave a warning to the Republican Party to let them know you're probably going to have some problems in the midterms because of this government shutdown. I would agree with that too. Like, people are already living paycheck to paycheck, and there are people that work for the federal government that are just not getting paid right now because the government is shut down. But it goes further than that. She's not just criticizing that. Wait for it.
About the cost of living. Are you
Very.
That the President Trump said he would lower?
The inflation crushed people in the past 4.5 years, and the costs have not come down. I myself can tell you, my apartment here in Washington, D.C., the electricity bill is $100 more than it was last year, because you can look at your own bill and look at cost. Prices have not come down. That is a reality. People's wages have not gone up. That's another reality. And so Americans are continuing to have a very difficult time getting by. And I'll go a step further. I'm a mom. And so when it comes to what is affecting my adult children's lives, who are 22, 26, and 28, I'm going to be 1,000% fighting for them over any politician and any party. And I can tell you right now, that generation, they are barely making it, and they're very hopeless for their future.
Now, that sounds similar to what Bernie Sanders has been saying all these past years. And what a lot of us have been saying. She's right about the utility bills. They have increased. She's right about that. And we've been saying this for so long. And this is an issue where I do feel like, I don't know why this needs to be a partisan issue. She's right about the younger generation. They are feeling the squeeze. They're going to feel it the most, right? Especially those just getting out of college and just trying to start their career. They are going to feel that pain the most, especially if they have student loan debt. So she's not only seeing this happen in her own family, but also she's heard the complaints from her own constituents. This is an issue where actually people should be going across the line to meet with each other and work together on these economic issues, but they're not, because they're beholden to their parties. And this is one of the things I will say, is that the founding fathers in this country did not want political parties for this very reason, because the fear was that people would not back policy decisions or what they feel was a good policy decision. They would walk away from that and just back the party. And ideally, that's what we have in this country right now. Even those that are in the Democratic Party that support the progressive policies, at the end of the day, didn't they tell you to vote for Kamala Harris, who didn't support the same policies that they supported, because they want you to stick with the party? You see the same thing with the Republican Party. Although I would say in the Republican Party, we're starting to see more of a pushback now, right? Because of Israel, and I think it started with that. But now it has evolved into other things. Like Thomas Massie has been very vocal about ending these wars and not using money for these wars. But now we're going into economic issues. This is different. And when people feel economic pain, it's not like economic pain only impacts people of a certain party. You know what I mean? It's not like your utility company says, I'm going to increase the price for this household because they're Democrats. It hits all of us. We all feel that pain. I don't even think we've fully recovered since the pandemic, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's better than it was in 2020, but there's a lot of recovery to be made. There were people that lost their businesses, little small businesses right here in Massachusetts, especially in Boston. I watched a lot of businesses disappear. So these are economic issues. Now I want to get to another video of her here because she's going on the road with this one. Listen to this part here.
Whether we're Democrats or Republicans, people right now are looking at everything through their wallet and their bank account, and they're going, the price of food has not gone down. They're saying rent has not gone down. Houses are still unaffordable. And now health insurance premiums are going to hike, whether you're on the ACA or having private insurance as well. They're literally going to go up for everyone. And I don't really care about the drama up here. I could care less. I really think we got to fix this issue. Certainly.
Pause for a second. So the healthcare issue. So this is her, I would say, breaking away from the party on that issue. So you see what I mean? Like these issues like healthcare, that impacts all of us, unless you're rich and you could just be like, whatever, I can pay for whatever I want, right? But for the 99% of us, it's going to impact all of us. Not being able to buy a home, that means you're going to be a forever renter. Or not being able to even save up for the down payment, right? So these are your future, everyone's future. These are the core economic issues. Now, it was one thing to kind of break with the party on the Epstein issue, which is just crazy to me how people are just all of a sudden now willing to overlook that because Donald Trump told you nothing to see here. Thought you cared so much about those damn kids, but I guess not. And one thing to break with the party on the Israel issue. Now we're getting into the class issue, the economic issue. Donald Trump is a billionaire. A lot of his friends are also billionaires or multimillionaires, and they don't feel the same kind of pain. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, yes, she wrote a book. She has I'm sure she probably does some speaking engagements. Like they get extra money on the side or whatever. But she also has 3 kids, as she said as well. But also she's been talking to people that are her constituents and they're feeling the pain. And this was the warning that I said to people, those people that live in those rural areas. I told people with the healthcare issue, the red states are going to be hit the hardest because they have less funding. And I'm sure she is seeing that in Georgia. Let's continue on.
I support the president, but I'm not, what would be the right way to say it? I'm not some sort of blind slave to the president, and I don't think anyone should be. I serve in Congress. We're a separate branch of the government.
Let's bring that back. I'm sorry. Can we bring that back and drop the beat? We're going to bring that back and drop the beat.
I could care less. I really think we got to fix this issue. I certainly support the president, but I'm not, what would be the right way to say it? I'm not some sort of blind slave to.
Oh!
Let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure. Give them a name to remember. Hey, let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure.
A moment can live on forever. Forever. That's gonna be the phrase of the week. Someone already said it, blind slave. That's gonna be
the president, and I don't think anyone should be. I serve in Congress. We're a separate branch of the government, and I'm not elected by the president. I'm not elected by anyone that works in the White House. I'm elected by my district. That's who I work for. And I got elected without the president's endorsement. And, you know, I think that has served me really well. So I get to be independent as a Republican. And I think what helps him the most is when he has people that are willing to be honest with him and not just tell him what they think he wants to hear. And what I would say right now is to the president, and I think he already knows it based on things I've heard him say, is we have a serious situation with health insurance in this country. And I would love to see him come up with a solution. I would love to see, with everybody that works in this town, come up with a solution. And I would love to see Washington, D.C. and the government actually serve the American people for once.
Well, someone was serious about being America first. Listen, I told you guys, when these economic issues start to hit the pockets of the constituents, at least she's actually listening to her constituents. There have been a number of Congress members that have had these town hall hearings and they have not gone well at all, where they've told constituents, F you, I don't want to hear what you have to say, or they don't have them at all because they're scared. They're scared to have these conversations with their constituents, right? So ideally, she's pushing back against the regulators. Now, I'm not here to say that she's perfect and you should stand her. No, no, no. We don't stand no politicians over here on this show. But what I am here to say is every politician in Congress right now should be pushing back that way. Should be pushing back that way. But they don't give a damn. They don't care. She went on to say this here as well.
It is hurting so many people, Manu, seriously, so many people across the board, no matter how they vote. I'm literally calling it out and saying, let's take off our Democrat jerseys, let's take off our Republican jerseys, and we should do something responsible for the American people and fix this.
I mean, this is what we've been saying, right? This is what we've been saying for quite some time. Those core economic issues are going to impact all of us. But if you live in a state that has less funding, like a lot of the red states do, you are going to feel it more. And that was the warning that I gave to people prior to the government shutdown and these talks that Donald Trump had about, wanting to cut back on Medicaid and all this type of stuff. Now, she pushed back and said MTG is suddenly turning on Republicans and Trump. She says that's wrong. Listen to why I ran in the first place. So let me read this here. I can't play it because it's 60 minutes, but let me read this here. In April 2023, in a 60 Minutes interview, MTG said that the very reason she ran for Congress was seeing the House and Senate completely fail to deliver the agenda that we had all voted for. Citing the failure to repeal Obamacare as a prime example. They failed us, she declared. I want Republicans to actually govern the way they campaign and solve problems plaguing the American people. So yeah, she wanted them to repeal Obamacare at that point in time. And I'm assuming put something else in place for that. But see, this is what I was going to tell you guys. Like, there are certain issues that affect all of us. All of us. And what sucks is with some of these economic issues, they have found ways to make it, this is just a Democrat issue or this is just a Republican issue. Everybody needs health care, whether you're sick or not. I mean, there's a such thing as preventative care. So we all need health care. People need to be able to have their checkups. We all need to be able to do these things. And I'd add the dentist to that too, because I don't know what it is with some of these companies that want to give you health insurance, but no dental, as if your teeth don't matter. Teeth matter too. Okay. Teeth matter too. Impacts all of us. Now, part of the problem is, this is us, fam. You got the taxpayer over here on the bike. Very thin. He's trying to struggle. And he has a passenger. And this example shows Israel, but you can put other people here. It shows the taxpayer carrying Israel. You can put billionaires there. Right? You can put Elon Musk there. You can put Larry Fink there. There's a lot of things that are carrying, right? But the point is, we're at the bottom. We are the 99%. This is one thing I will say. Occupy Wall Street had the right idea. They were right. It is more of us than there are of them. But the moment people start to sit back and figure that out, then they're going to get scared. Then they have a problem because they're like, uh-oh, we may not be able to keep them divided among red team and blue team anymore. And sometimes I wonder if Donald Trump's policies are so extreme on purpose so that it keeps you in the duopoly. People are looking back and they're saying, man, I knew Trump was going to be bad, but I didn't know he was going to be this horrible. I can't wait to 2028 so we can get a Democrat back in there. And you just keep doing this game back and forth, and the pendulum just keeps on swinging, but it never swings in the direction of the people who are working class. These are just things I think about sometimes. Like, I was thinking about this. What if this is all part of a plan, right? But to show you how the people are feeling here, there was a woman who called in to C-SPAN, and she gave Mike Johnson a piece of her mind. Listen to this.
On the Republican line, Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Samantha, you're on with Speaker Johnson.
Hi, Mr. Johnson. So my question or comments are related to what you said yesterday about not being open to pass any legislation to ensure that military gets paid. I'm sure you can tell by my voice I'm very shaky. Just want you to hear a little bit about my family. I have 2 medically fragile children. I have a husband who actively serves this country. He suffers from PTSD from his 2 tours in Afghanistan. If we see a lapse in pay come the 15th, my children do not get to get the medication that's needed for them to live their life, because we live paycheck to paycheck. I heard you earlier say that you side with President Trump on anything that he says. Well, I just read an article this morning that said he absolutely wholeheartedly believes that there needs to be legislation put in so that we do not miss a paycheck. You have the power to do that. And as a Republican, I'm very disappointed in my party, and I'm very disappointed in you, because you do have the power to call the House back. You did that, or you refused to do that just for a show. I am begging you to pass this legislation. My kids could die. We don't have the credit because of the medical bills that I have to pay regularly. You could stop this, and you could be the one that could say military is getting paid. And I think that it is awful, and the audacity of someone who makes 6 figures a year to do this to military families is insane.
All right.
Yeah, but they care so much about those veterans, right? So I told you, people not getting paid. Mike Johnson don't give a damn. He sold out a long time ago. He don't care about babies being killed and bombed. So he damn sure don't care about the fact that this woman called in and said, my child could die because she's not getting the medicine that she needs. He don't give a damn. The moment he decided to take all that money from billionaires, and especially from APAC, Big Pharma, etc., he sold his soul, and he was just willing to go along with that for his career. But she's right about him making the 6 figures. And that brings up the class issue again, because a lot of the military families, unless the soldier is like a captain or a lieutenant, maybe colonel, they're not really making a lot, right? I mean, like my family was military when I was growing up. We weren't rich. I mean, I still had to take out student loans to go to college. So the problem is, as she says, I'm getting upset with my party. That's what she said to him. The problem is that this could be solved a different way. When you put your hope and your trust into a politician, you are basically putting your faith in someone who already sold their soul to corporate interests, greed, military industrial complex, Israel. So even though they're supposed to represent you, they don't. That's all Congress is. There's a couple of politicians in Congress that don't take corporate money. Most of them do. If people really want things to change, you got to start with a whole new slate. And Mike Johnson does not really care. Now, I want to point something out. It's painful to hear what that woman is going through. And there are many of you that have been in that situation or maybe in that situation right now. That's what it's like for a lot of Americans when you're living paycheck to paycheck. When the government fails you, when the politicians fail you, this is where community building and mutual aid should be able to come in to keep you afloat. And this is the point that I really want to drive home. The solutions that I think a lot of us are looking for are not going to be found in a politician. The solutions are going to be found among us, the community. We have to get back to the days where we know our neighbor, where we know if our kid did something wrong before they got home, because the people in the community kept an eye out for each other. That's the community my parents grew up in. That's the community my grandparents grew up in. We have to get back to the days where you can knock on your neighbor's door and they don't see you as a threat. But in order for that to happen, that means that people have to get off their phones a little bit and stop spending so much time on social media. We have to get back to the days of building community, because you know what would help her right now? Mutual aid. Mutual aid would help her while they're not getting paid. Mutual aid would help her get that medicine for her child. Community building would help her with that. This is what those of us at RBN, this is why we push mutual aid, because we have been there. When I was struggling, like really struggling financially during the 2008 housing crisis, it took me years. But when I was down and out, you know what helped me? It wasn't that weak, small stimulus check from George W. Bush, because that wasn't shit. You know what really helped me? It was the community. It was my friends. It was my family. We got to get back to building community with each other. There's people I talk to now, they don't even talk to their family members. What has become of us as a society? Some of you may be watching right now. Tell me the last time you spoke to a family member, the last time you talked to your friend. So we have to build dual power. Mike Johnson is not going to save you. Marjorie Taylor Greene is asking Donald Trump to step in and help. Donald Trump is not going to save you. We are going to save each other. That's how this works. The Black Panthers taught us how to do this. They build within their community because they knew the government was going to sell them out and not be there. And that's what we have to get back to. If you are interested in doing that, if you're interested in building community, then come to the mutual aid workshop. It's free. I do it once a month. We're doing the next one October 25th, 11 a.m. It's virtual. It's Zoom. You can wear your PJs if you want to. I'm not going to be able to see you anyway. I have my camera off. People have their camera off. If you sign up for my Substack, you'll get the Zoom link. I send it out that week, and you can join the mutual aid workshop so I can teach you how to do mutual aid and build community. That's what this comes back to. Because these people, these politicians, they don't give a damn about you. You heard what she said. He makes 6 figures. He don't give a damn. His kids get to eat. His kids get their medicine. He don't care about yours. But Marjorie Taylor Greene pushing back in a way that I did not think would happen. And I think that's because it's directly impacting her family and also her constituents. She seems to be listening to what they have to say. Interesting times, folks. We got to push back against the regulators and we got to build community. Let's get to some of the comments here in the chat, ladies and gents. Thank you, Trusting Success. I'm sure he knows that they are living in the same hell the Palestinians are living in. Oh, I read that one already. Sorry. Thank you, Nicole. The Epstein files are coming out soon. Yeah, that should be interesting. Thank you, Roger. The services, last 2 words couldn't fit in Rockfin. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Marvin. Greater Israel Project still alive. Gaza, Iran, Yemen in way. Yeah. Jerry says, Sab, it's time to shake them all up, the left and the right, by having MTG on your show. Someone reached out to me about that, but they were like, they only wanted me to talk about one issue. And I'm like, no, no, I'm only going to talk about one issue. Thank you, Vinyl. Got to drop the beat for Candace's latest video at 50:25. Trust me, I was cheering at the TV. Eric and Corey, can you look at that to see? There must have been another video that dropped. Can you check that out? 50:25. Thanks, Fuzzy Balls. I wish MTG, Thomas Massey, and Rand Paul reflected the true picture of the government. Sadly, these voices of oppression are but mosquito bites, and the corporate media creates blackouts against their voice. There you go. And thank you for the super sticker, Ray. Hey. All right, cool. We are making good time. I don't know if Eric and Corey heard me. Maybe they did. I'll send it in the private chat. We'll get to that when we get to that story. Okay, let's move on to the next story. Again, the theme tonight is regulators. If you haven't done so, please smash that like. Thank you. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share like a Care Bear. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much, Corey. All right, let's get to the next story here. Chuck Schumer came on to Roland Martin's show. Roland Martin, Democrat shill, says he's independent, but he promotes the Democratic Party. It just is what it is, right? Heavily supported and pushed Kamala Harris. Came after me quite a number of times on Twitter, as if that was going to change my mind. Hilarious. But anyway, Chuck Schumer went on to Roland Martin's show, and Roland Martin did ask him what the Democratic Party plans to do about the Black vote. And indeed, what this means is that basically, acknowledging that Kamala Harris lost a portion of the Black vote, which is something I told you guys after Trump won the 2024 presidential election. Listen to what Chuck Schumer says. This, You got to see this to believe it.
A lot of people are already talking about 2026 Senate races. We saw in North Carolina more than 600,000 Black voters who did not vote in 2024, more than 1 million in Georgia. Texas, largest group of Black voters in the country, and you got a Senate race there as well. And I got to tell you straight, one of the great concerns that I have, and I'm being very frank, are too many, frankly, white Democratic strategists who are playing Black people small. And when I looked at the Mandela Barnes race, when I looked at the race in North Carolina as well, too often what I'm hearing is that, and the same thing happened with in the Texas race, you had a candidate who's sitting here, a congressman, Colin Allred, they were not targeting African Americans at all. This is a huge issue that it needs to be addressed, the investment and the time and attention spent on Black voters. And I don't think you're going to have a shot at winning seats in 2026 where you have a lot of Black voters if these same strategists keep playing the same game. Are you and others talking to them say they've got to change how they are targeting key Democratic voters?
Yes.
Pause there for a second. Now, before we get into his answer, which is wiggity whack, first and foremost, why did Chuck Schumer interrupt Roland when he was still speaking? And he don't look happy about that. The fact that he basically brought up that the Democratic Party lost the Black vote. They did in 2024. Kamala received less support among Black voters than Biden, Hillary, and Obama. It's just a fact. But Chuck looked mad. Chuck does not look happy. Like, how dare you ask me that question? So he went on to a Black commentator show, and he seems to be a little bothered by the fact that he asked them, what are you guys doing about outreach to the Black community? Listen to what he says. This is wild, fam.
Especially Black.
Yes. We have Cory Booker as head of our SCC, And he is focused on bringing in not black voters only, but black consultants, black influencers, and people who reach out to the community. All too often, Democrats miss that. We have Raphael Warnock, who's active in our DSCC, Democratic Senate Campaign Committee, doing the same. We have a woman who's from the community, Jessica Henry, who's in charge of giving out a lot of these contracts. I'll give you one other interesting thing. It's related to what you say, but not direct. We have a chance to elect the first African-American U.S. Senator in Mississippi in a very long time.
Pause. Does everybody see what Chuck Schumer did? So Chuck basically told Roland Martin to his face, he is letting him know that, yeah, we have a plan to reach out to the black community, but it's not going to be me. He said it would be Cory Booker and Raphael Warnock, the puppet of puppets, both AIPAC shills. Of course, they would send them into the black community because while they're there, they're probably going to also have them try to convince black people to be pro-Israel. I got something to show you about that. You'll see what I mean. Raphael Warnock is a pastor. But what? So now he says we have the chance to elect the first black woman. So here we go with the first of the first. Now I'm all for representation, but it doesn't mean anything if they're not actually going to do anything for the black community. Hell, I voted for Barack Obama. He ain't do anything for us. There's representation, but So Chuck, number one, doesn't like that question was asked of him. First of all, if you go back to the very beginning of the interview when Chuck first comes on, because he doesn't come on at the beginning, he comes on later on in the show. Chuck Schumer wasn't there for 15 minutes. Let's continue.
This man, Scott Collum, was nominated to be the first African-American judge in Mississippi, federal judge in 100 years, and the incumbent woman in Senate, Hyde Smith, blocked him using the blue slip. He's running, and we're going all out. I have Derek Jackson of the NAACP working. I have Romero of the ACLU working. We're all working there, and if people are listening from Mississippi or have friends and relatives in Mississippi, we can win this seat. But we'll only win it, as you say, by reaching out to the community from people who know the community.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because...
Stop reaching out to the community for people who know the community. And we're supposed to assume that Cory Booker is one of those people. Cory Booker spends more time advocating for Israel and the Israel cause, more time hanging out with people like Rabbi Shmuley than he does so much with the black community, because things really changed for him once he got that Senate seat. I remember his whole story. Like I can tell you some things. I saw Cory Booker speak in 2020 in New Hampshire. I had this plan at this time to try to see as many candidates as I could in New Hampshire. That didn't really pan out well because the pandemic happened. But Cory Booker, I got to tell you, out of all the ones I've seen, had to be the fakest of fake. Fake it if fake, fake. It's the eyes, like the eyes and the gesture. And I was just like, this guy is really performing. It was obvious. Knew he wasn't going to be president. Very obvious. But the point that Chuck Schumer made there is he let Roland Martin know this is not something that he is willing to do. And I think that's what people may have missed on this. We're passing it on to Cory Booker. And I get it. Some people are like, well, it should be done by other black people. But even in that, he said Cory Booker is looking to hire black consultants. They don't even want to go into the black community and talk to black people. They go to every other community. They go to every other event. But they don't want to go into the black community to even talk to black people. They're not going into the hood, that's for sure. They're not trying to get non-voters. As much as people bring up AOC, they forget to mention that AOC won. She beat Crowley, because she got non-voters to register to vote. But it's almost like the Democratic Party, they act like they're afraid, like they're scared to go into the Black community. They don't even want to be around us. Let's go on.
That's one of my biggest issues. So whether it was Sherry Beasley or Colin Allred or Val Demings and some of the other races, it was driving me crazy as I was talking directly with their campaigns and was getting very little feedback. And so, again, that's a lot of people are paying attention to. And we've seen the Black voter drop, especially with Black men. And there has to be a very specific, targeted effort to reach African Americans. It's a lot different than what we've seen in the past decade, to be honest.
No question. We're going to do it.
All right.
Weak sauce from Chuck Schumer, right? No question. We're going to do it. He ain't like that. Look at the look on Chuck Schumer's face. He does not like that, right? So here's the thing. I said that to Roland Martin prior to the 2024 presidential election on social media. I told him, I've been talking to voters on the ground, and some of the Black voters, especially Black men, saying they are not going to vote for Kamala Harris. He called me every type of name in the book, but guess who was right in the end? Here's the problem. You see, Chuck Schumer letting you know that he not willing to go that extra mile to get you. He not going to put himself in that position. I mean, he is senator, leader of the Democratic Party, but he is not going to put himself in that position. He not willing to step out to go into Black communities and talk to the people. And when you leave that door open, that's why someone like Trump can walk right in. This is who Chuck Schumer said they are trying to help get the Black vote. Cory Booker, this guy, cozied up with Rabbi Shmuley. This is who he said they are sending out to go get the Black vote for the Democratic Party. With this guy. That's how close they are, right? So you can see it here. Cory Booker and the Orthodox rabbi were like brothers. Now they don't speak. Remember that? We talked about this before on the show. That was 2019. They've been together hanging out since. So that's who they want. They want to send people like Cory Booker, who went to Stanford, who a lot of times don't have things in common with the Black voters that they're trying to get. But because he's Black, let him go do it. It's just one of those things, you know? And some of you may be able to identify with this. It's just this belief that I guess Chuck Schumer just seems to have is like, well, Cory Booker's Black, Raphael Warnock's Black, let's just let them go do it. Cory Booker moved into a low-income neighborhood in New Jersey so that he could run for, I think it was mayor at that point in time. I always have this type of feeling about people who move to an area to run. So it gave people this impression that like, oh, he lives in a low-income area. Oh, that's so great of him. Oh, that was all part of the plan. AIPAC got a hold of him a long time ago. I'll show you how long ago. This is the guy that they want to go recruit Black voters. Cory Booker tells AIPAC how to recruit African Americans to the pro-Israel cause. We'll put the captions on for this one because the volume's kind of low. This was years ago.
A couple more questions. One more question, Barry. Barry says, Barry has spoken. This is a lot of pressure. The last question.
You spoke a lot about hope, and obviously you are someone who is very pro-Israel. We also heard beautiful remarks about some of the students on traditionally Black colleges, leadership, and what they've done. But could you give us your own evaluation of the African American leadership in the United States, and what is their feeling about Israel? And because oftentimes I think locally outside of New York, we find that there is becoming greater identification not with the history of Israel and what Israel's become, but with the sufferings of the Palestinians without any, really understanding of the history of Israel. So come on, African American leadership.
Well, blacks are always going to.
Pause. Does everybody see what was happening there? So that gentleman said black people are becoming more concerned about the suffering of the Palestinians without knowing the history of Israel. One, that's assuming that we haven't read and we don't know what we're talking about. No, we're just not brainwashed. Two, you're admitting that the Palestinians are suffering. But Cory Booker is there to behave in such a way to tap dance for the establishment and for Israel. So listen to what he says to them in this room. This is bad.
African American leadership.
Well, blacks are always going to be, as Jews are, I think, always going to be some of the first to sign up to address the suffering of others. And we shouldn't be afraid of that within the black community, the Jewish community, whatever community. But when it comes to justice for Israel and understanding any suffering within context, we need to be more vigilant than we're being right now. And so within the black community, and I say this all the time, and you asked specifically about black leadership. First of all, this excites me like never before, because Obama is a raindrop compared to the storm that's coming of young black leaders around this country who are phenomenally qualified, phenomenally experienced. You're going to see more black governors, you're going to see more black senators, you're going to see critical that you continue to find, not them when they're Congress people, you find those black leaders when they're 22-year-olds at Oxford, when they're 24-year-olds as a city council president, and you go to them then and say, come to Israel. Let us start showing you what this is about.
That's the tap dancing Cory Booker. Here he is advising the pro-Israel crowd of AIPAC here. This is AIPAC he's talking to. How to get black people on for their cause. That's the Cory Booker that Chuck Schumer wants to go talk to black voters. I mean, it's like, seriously, if we were back during the slave days, it's like Cory Booker is choosing to be the house slave. He's choosing to be the one that he heard that the slaves out in the field are planning to try to find a way to run away. And he overheard the plan. So he go back into the house and he go tell master what the plan is. He's basically just, let me tell you how to get them. Get them when they're young. What did I tell you? That's what they've been doing. This is who he wants to go get the black voters. Cory Booker selling out the black community to a genocidal state, to an oppressive state. Can you imagine this when you think about it? The fact that black people, everything that we've been through in this country, that and still go through, that we're supposed to back and support a state of people that are oppressing and occupying another group of people. And I point out Cory Booker because he's one to come first and talk about civil rights. Civil rights this, police brutality that, we got to fight, yada, yada. But he don't support civil rights for Palestinians. You see, Cory seems to be one of the ones that they got when he was young. So that's who they want to go in and do the bidding. Here he is selling black people out. Not one black person in the room, but him.
That's a key mission of AIPAC that must continue, which is finding future leaders, young leaders in America. I'm at the ask.
You see that? Zed Jelani was the one who was in that room that captured that. Or he wants Raphael Warnock. He wants Raphael Warnock, this guy. He wants him to go out there and get the black voters. Now, he's a pastor, right? So he has a congregation or had a congregation. I don't know if he still does anymore. Has a congregation, etc. This guy who took over $900,000 from AIPAC. You see, Raphael Warnock, just because you said we need to get aid into Gaza, your hands are not clean. Another sellout. And let me say something else, because this is about the Black church. The Black church is a part of this too, and a part of the problem in many ways, because the Black church decided a long time ago, you know what? We're not going to look out for the betterment of the Black community. We're going to sell out to Democrat politicians, fake nonprofit organizations, donors that come through, Jim Clyburn. We're going to sell out to those entities. And of course, also to Israel. This is the same guy that when he was running, he had a sermon that went viral on social media because he was talking about, according to the Bible, Jesus would have been a socialist. Ain't heard him talk about none of that since. So we have to be careful about the people who appear to be one way. They say the right thing to get that support from people who support those progressive policies. But once they get in, they just operate like everybody else. So the plan, I think, is to have them to go in because they're pro-Israel. They take money from AIPAC, have them go in and do that. And another thing I want to point out, we go back to this article here, this interview that happened with Chuck Schumer, March of 2025, because I want to make a point here where he talks about what his job is to do. Here we go. Yeah, right about here. This is Chuck Schumer. But he also warned that the greatest danger to Israel long term is if you lose half of America, the liberal half. He's talking about Netanyahu. One of Netanyahu's previous visits to the United States, Schumer told me he urged Prime Minister to go on to Rachel Maddow and not just Sean Hannity. Netanyahu ignored the advice, and Schumer, in a Senate speech later, called for new elections to replace him, for which he remains fiercely proud. It showed Democrats, he said, that it's possible to oppose Netanyahu while championing the Jewish state. Here's the part we got to highlight. My job, he told me, is to keep the left pro-Israel. Now, first of all, I would say Democrats aren't actually left. The Democratic Party is a right-wing party. It's not a far right-wing party, but it's still a right-wing party. And two, this points back to what I said about Cory Booker and Raphael Warnock. Chuck Schumer said his job is to make sure that the left remains pro-Israel. So he is sending in Cory Booker and Raphael Warnock to energize Black people to come out and vote for the Democratic Party. And both of them just happen to be pro-Israel and puppets of AIPAC. And another thing, this also going to show you something, and Roland Martin should have pushed back on this. Chuck Schumer basically was letting Roland Martin know that he wasn't going to go out there and get his hands dirty like that, but also that he was going to look out for his people. You see how this works? Last thing I saw Chuck Schumer do for the Black community was virtue signaling. And that was him wearing that kente cloth, looking like a clown. This is what I've been trying to wake people up to. He gonna go support and help his people, but he want you to also go and help his people. Everybody's supposed to stop what they doing at some point, and they supposed to go over and help Israel. But everybody else doesn't have to stop what they're doing and come over and help the Black community. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the Democratic Party. The Republican Party is very clear about where they stand on this, but my problem is the Democratic Party pretends like they give a shit when they don't. I can't believe he was only on there for 15 minutes. But he did not like that question at all. Let's go to some of the comments, ladies and gents. Hey, hey, hey. Shout out to JD for becoming a Sabby member. Give JD a big whoop, whoop. Yeah. All right, JD. Thank you, Kenman. Warnock has an IQ of 104. You don't see him that much either. Thank you, Johnny. Corey Kahn Booker screwed Newark, New Jersey as mayor and New Jersey and America as senator and needs to get the hell out. Thank you, Ray. Voter registration is where it's at. Thank you. And thank you, Tuxedo. Trump did it. He ended the war. Nobel Prize win. I don't know if you just came in this chat, but he did not end the war. You'll probably have to start at the beginning of the stream. The war is not over. Israel's still bombing Gaza, and they're already trying to send American troops to Gaza. So maybe you just you came in a little bit later. And shout out to Nan Carter for gifting one Sabby Sabs membership. Hey, hey, hey. All right, let's get the comment on Rockfin. Thank you. Thank you, Roger, for the tip on Rockfin. Military enlistment is up, but overall active duty strength is down due to poor retention, especially for the Army and the Coast Guard, who are losing a high number of new recruits. Key reasons for down retention include competitive civilian job markets, a desire for better work-life balance, frequent relocations, and issues with work environment culture, compensation, and career advancement within. Thank you for this one. Sabrina, now connect the last story with the last message that I sent. They need recruitment up to fight these wars. They're ripping up the war machine, what makes anyone think, including MJT, that actually is going to create an economic atmosphere for Zoomers to have options. People, federal government is not coming to help you. We have to create these opportunities for our Zoomers at the state level. Those CBIAs for public banks, worker co-ops, Medicare for all, minimum wage, etc. Roger, I'm not reading all these states, but you guys can see the states there. Or run them as CBI amendments in those states, run them as a law. Depriving the military of cogs for the war machine by delivering at home what we'd like to see nationally is the only way to combat. And thank you for this one. That Colin Allred guy running for U.S. Senate out of Texas was corny as hell. Chuck, act like there's no black people in New York State for him to reach out to. I've been taking up a little project. I started out with my state as a prototype. I made a file of the New York State turnout for presidential, gubernatorial, and NYC mayor going all the way back to 2008, based on a total number of registered voters. Interesting. And thank you, Sunrise, for the Rumble rant. Nigerian activist OK Vitalis Norum from Omar, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher this, Omar Al-Mokhtar boat of the global Samud flotilla still in Israeli hands. Okay, I think this is the picture of the guy that I saw that they said is still there. I still haven't heard anything else about Nelson Mandela's grandson, who they said was also not released yet. So I have to check that out. Check an update on that. Can we go to the next part, please, on Tight VNC? Thank you for the super sticker, Zakia. Thank you very much. And thank you, William. Voting will never work. Boycott and never forgive. Hey, I'm all for boycott. All for that. Quick announcement here. If you are in Massachusetts, this is a big one. And shout out to all the activists that put this together. There's a call to action. There will be a hearing about the Office of Freedmen Affairs in Massachusetts. They are asking for testimony. This is a big deal. See the link below. So yeah, I was sharing this. Actually, it's better if I do it this way. In Massachusetts, they're asking people to testify for the Massachusetts Bill H4 3351 for the Office of Freedmen Affairs. It's a public hearing. Make your voice heard. So they're trying to create an Office of Freedmen Affairs here in Massachusetts. This is your chance to speak up, guys. There should be a link. Yeah, I have the link in the next one. a link as well. If you do not have a prepared statement, please use the template that is attached below. So I'll send you guys the link so you can register. But this is organized by the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. So let me share this here. Here's the testimony registration. So I'll put this in the chat for you to sign up if you live in the area. That's a big deal, guys. Like, people are trying to do things locally through the states because the federal government ain't going to do shit. Ain't gonna do it at all. Ain't gonna do it at all. So check that out if you get a chance, ladies and gents. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next story here. This one is kind of an eye-opener. Again, we're talking about regulators, right? And one of those regulators appears to be someone like Douglas Murray. Douglas Murray, a journalist, political commentator. Maybe the journalist part is a stretch, but political commentator here. I think a lot of us, we came to know about him when he was on Joe Rogan with Dave Smith and his infamous "you've never been" statement. Well, something has been exposed about Douglas Murray, and we're going to get into all of that. If you are not familiar with him, this is when he called out Joe Rogan. He said that Joe Rogan was not bringing as many pro-Israel people on the show.
Can I ask you something? Yes, sir. Since the war in Israel began, and since the war in Ukraine began, you've had quite a lot of people who are very against both in different ways.
Yes.
Do you think you've had enough people on who are supportive of either war?
I don't know that word enough, if that's a good word.
Let's say enough people who are on the side of Israel instead of wild critics.
Well, I've had a few. I mean, I believe GAZA is on the side of Israel. For sure. Jordan is on the side of Israel.
Mike Baker, Coleman Hughes.
Yeah.
Coleman did it for like 20 minutes, so it wasn't why he was here.
No, I mean, none of them is why they're here. You know, it's a good question.
Do you think you've tilted one way?
Me personally?
No, just with the guests you've had.
The guests, yeah, probably more tilted towards the idea that perhaps the way they've done it is barbaric.
But why do you think that is? Just out of interest. I'm just interested in your selection of guests because you're like the world's number one podcast.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think about it that way. I just think I'd like to talk to this person.
But can I just, sorry, it's your show, but
sure.
If you're going to interview historians of the conflict, or historians in general, why would you get somebody like Ian Carroll? Or
Yeah, but Ian Carroll, I didn't bring him on for that purpose. I brought him on because I want to find out, like, how does one get involved in the whole conspiracy theory business? Because his whole thing is just conspiracies.
Sure.
You know?
But do you have any, I mean, there's been a tilt in the conversation, both conversations in the last couple of years, and it's largely to do with people who have appointed themselves experts, who are not experts.
You mean like Ian? I don't think he appoints himself an expert in anything.
Who's that other dude who thinks he's an expert on Churchill?
Daryl Cooper does not think he's an expert.
In fact, I think it's everybody else is always calling him an expert, and he's like, I'm just a history.
Have you ever absorbed any of his material? Have you ever consumed any of his podcasts or anything like that?
I've tried.
Yeah?
It's pretty hard to listen to somebody who says, I don't know what I'm talking about, but now I'm going to talk. Or I don't know about this. Or I'm not capable of debating this historian, but I'm going to just tell you what I think.
This was one of the pushbacks I think a lot of us gave at that point in time, this idea that you can't talk about something unless you are an expert on it.
Yeah, but that's not exactly what Daryl was saying. I mean, Daryl's point of view, however you feel about this, what Daryl's saying is he doesn't really like doing debates. He likes to do long format stuff where he can really explain his position.
If you throw a lot of shit out there, there's some point at which I'm just raising questions is not a valid thing. You're not raising questions. You're not asking questions. You're telling people something.
Do you think Daryl's doing that?
I think there's a whole bunch of guys doing that. I think Dave is doing that, very obviously. Dave's a comedian, but he's now mainly talking about Israel.
Yeah. A pompous asshole. One of those people that feel as though you can't talk about something unless unless you're an expert on it. But I think a lot of people remember him for this statement here when he comes after Dave Smith, because apparently Dave Smith hasn't been there.
Have you been to the crossing points?
No.
When were you last there at all?
I've never been.
You've never been?
Well, am I not allowed to talk about it now? Have you ever been to Nazi Germany? Are you allowed to have feelings about them?
You can't time travel, but you can. But you can travel.
Okay, but so what? So what's the point? Like,
no,
okay.
I find that
lots of people have been there and agree with me, and lots of people have been there and agree with you.
Yeah, but
so
if
I don't
you're going to
know
spend a year and a half talking about a place, you should at least do the courtesy of visiting it.
All right. I just think this is a non-argument.
You don't
but
think?
Okay. No, I think it's a non-argument.
But if you're an expert,
you have to go and touch the ground.
No, I think you have to see. I think it's a good idea to see stuff, particularly if you spend a career talking about something. Yes, I have a journalistic rule of trying never to talk about a country even in passing unless I've at least been there.
At least I've been there. You've never been? So Z Squirrel, who shared this video, is calling out Douglas Murray here because that wasn't true what he said, right? Like he has not been to all these places. Listen.
This is one of the, I would say, one of the greatest nations on earth. In terms
Certainly
of
one of the great cultures of Earth.
Cultures,
Yes.
the peoples of
Yes.
Iran.
Yeah. In the case of the revolutionary government in Iran, Tehran, when the Green Revolution in 2009 started in Iran, to Tehran and to Iran, and in pre-revolutionary Iran, Iranian revolutionary expansionism across the region. In Tehran, Iran, the revolutionary Islamic government in Iran, it's Iran, but Tehran is Iran, back off or are destroyed, which is the revolutionary government in Iran. The revolutionary government is the head of the snake. The Iranian revolutionary government, the mullahs in Tehran. The sanctions are biting in Iran. The regime feels that. They're getting blamed for that by the people quite rightly. If sanctions were to keep going on, the Iranian regime could well see itself under the kind of pressure and with the kind of popular protests that we saw in 2009. The Iranian official press is saying that he didn't say that to Iran. The Islamic revolutionary.
You guys get the idea. The point is, as much as he's talked about Iran, he has never been there. But he looked at Dave Smith and said, "You've never been?" Well, I wanted you to see that so that you can understand this story that was just exposed about him by Dropsite News. Let me go ahead and pull this up here. So this article is by Ryan Grimm, and for some reason Substack always signs people out. It's really annoying, to be honest with you. It's so annoying when Substack does this. Okay. Corey, can you fix this? I hate when Substack does this. It's like you sign in and then it's like if you're signed in or not. Yeah, sorry guys. Substack does that sometimes. Like you sign in and then if you're not there for a minute, then it comes back. Okay, thank you. He got it back. Okay. All right. This guy, check this out. This was just exposed by Ryan Grimm. So peep this, guys. David from Douglas Murray secretly drafted speeches for Israeli ambassador. We're going to jump to the Douglas Murray piece here because people need to see this. And then you'll understand why he had the talking points that he did. Let's start with the soldiers were superb. This part right here. British journalist and author Douglas Murray, an associate editor at the UK publication The Spectator, was pitching Prosser, that is the ambassador there, on his own version of a speech to be given at the UN. In a message entitled simply Draft, Murray wrote Prosser on July 31st of 2014, "Dear Ron, very good to speak earlier. I'm passing here my first draft ideas. It's probably slightly long, and it's possible I have to put in some diplomatic things that needed. But I think I've gotten all the points discussed." The speech contained Murray's own suggested speech for Prosser to deliver at the United Nations, including phrases like, "We Israelis have learned to live with the realities around us. We know who we are." Criticism of the outrageous and racist efforts to boycott Israeli products, and derogatory comments about European Muslims. This is coming from Douglas Murray. So as you can see here, this goes back to 2014, July 31st, 2014. And somehow they obtain these this exchange here between Douglas Murray and Ron Prosser. But here's the email right here. Murray added that Prosser may want to work on the speech more to develop it to his liking, offering his own services in that regard. I will give all the time I can to helping to get it right. So Douglas Murray went on to Joe Rogan's show. At the time, this article just came out. So Joe Rogan didn't know about this, but Douglas Murray knew about it. Now he went on to Joe Rogan's show, I guess, to give the pro-Israel perspective. And of course, Dave Smith was there to talk about, what Israel was, the pro-Palestinian perspective, etc. The entire time, nobody knew that this guy was that close to Israeli ambassador. I think that's something that people should have known. Don't you? So see, when I tell you all these people, like these regulators, and Douglas Murray, one of them as well, they're overseers. A lot of these people behind the scenes are in bed with the same regime that they are cheerleading for and is telling you that there's no genocide. So that's how close he is to Israel, to the point where he was willing to draft a speech for Israeli ambassador for the United Nations speech. He goes on to say here, let's go on here. The two maintained a sparse correspondence in the following months, with Murray mostly sending messages, sharing his articles, and lavishing praise on the ambassador, whom he said in August message was doing wonderful work as ever. At the time, Murray was also providing other services in support of Israel and its military efforts. Pause. So again, something that should have been explained. Something that probably Douglas Murray should have said before he even went on to Joe Rogan's show. That's not fair. If people don't know behind the scenes, this is what you are going to do. What you've been doing. The point is, Douglas Murray, when he went on to Joe Rogan's show, he went on there to push an agenda. Not just to have this debate. It was to push an agenda. Let's go on here. In November of that year, he wrote to Prosser to inform him that he had hosted an event that raised over £1 million for an organization called the Association for the Well-Being of Israeli Soldiers. So now Douglas Murray raised money for Israel. That organization had been created to provide funds directly to the IDF soldiers and IDF units, and was originally founded in 1942 by Israel's first Prime Minister, Dave Ben-Gurion. In 2015, AWIS merged with another organization and is now called the Association for Israel Soldiers. So I think it is important for people to know that the guy who went on to Joe Rogan's podcast and said, you need to have more pro-Israel people on, was also raising money for IDF soldiers to continue the genocide that they were doing. Do people not, I can't fathom this. And I'd really be curious to hear what Piers Morgan has to say about this, the way he went about defending Douglas Murray at that point in time. Pushing the agenda. How much they paying these people, man? We told you about the paid pro-Israel influencers. That's all out in the open. And then you got this guy behind the scenes, not only writing speeches for Israeli ambassador, but also raising money for the IDF. Crazy times we live in. I swear we live in a cartoon. Here is another sample of the message here, Douglas and Ron Prosser. It says here, message from Douglas Murray to Ron Prosser on November 15th, 2014, informing him about his successful fundraising efforts for the Association for the Welfare of Israeli Soldiers. And here's the confirmation, which basically shows you, yeah, successful fundraising efforts. Thank you. So it's not like Douglas Murray can deny this. They have the screenshots here of the conversation. Dear Douglas, I enjoyed our conversation very much. I admire you for standing up against this trend on the public domain against Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East. Everybody got the same talking point. Efi was really happy to receive a phone call from me telling him how good and successful the IDF event was. Keep up the good work. I didn't say this again. This guy, Douglas Murray, raised money for the IDF and nobody knew about it before he went onto this Joe Rogan show. He knew, Ron Prosser knew, the IDF may have known. The point is, it was a conflict of interest. You're pro-Israel. Not only you're pro-Israel, you raise money for Israel. You've never been? In his messages, Murray could scarcely contain his happiness at assisting Prosser with his work and even spending time together. I just wanted to drop a line to say thank you so much for spending time to see me in New York. It was very kind of you and really terrific to see you, he wrote in a message in November 15, 2014. He told the ambassador that he had successfully caught his flight in time after their meeting, mentioning the AWIS event, which he said was one of the most successful events ever. Adding the soldiers were superb. Again, these are the child killers that he's cheering on. Murray added that he hoped to see the ambassador again soon and told him, always call if I can ever do anything to help. 3 days later, Prosser gave Murray a thumbs up on his good work in reply, thanking him for his fundraising and advocacy efforts for the Israeli government while signing off, keep up the good work. And that's him there on Joe Rogan. Murray has made much of his devotion to the craft of journalism in a debate against comedian Dave Smith, hosted by podcaster Joe Rogan and watched by many millions in April of this year. He made the case to Smith that Smith was unqualified to discuss the humanitarian aid situation in Gaza because he had never been. Journalists are also supposed to avoid even the appearance of a conflict of interest. When Murray visited a crossing accompanied by the IDF, he wore a flak jacket labeled press. Journalistic rules would suggest Murray ought to have disclosed this to his audience, that he had fundraised and written speeches for the very entity he is now covering as a journalist. Yes. And that's the big problem. Disclosure. And that would have been helpful for Joe Rogan to know. I think that would have been really helpful. So you see, when we talk about these regulators, these people that are in these positions to oversee certain things, and this is why I've said this before, I'm pretty open to bringing, different people on this show. I brought people on I agree with. I brought people on I don't agree with. I've had on liberals. We've had on conservatives. We had socialists, Marxists, etc. Where I draw the line is I will not bring Zionists on this show because they want to come on to preach a narrative and to spread their propaganda. And they have plenty of access to corporate media because they're allowed to go on CNN. They're allowed to go on MSNBC. They're allowed to go on C-SPAN. They're allowed to go on Fox News. A lot of the people who come on this show are not. So when it comes to guests, I draw the line. They know Zionists coming on this show. We ain't bringing no racists on this show. We are not bringing people on here that their goal is to spread propaganda. We're not doing that. But the reality is here that information was not shared with Joe Rogan, not shared with the audience. And that, in my opinion, is journalistic malpractice. You should have told people about that. He knows about that, but he kept it hidden. Because if people would have known that prior to that discussion on Joe Rogan's podcast, maybe people would have felt differently because you were basically working with them. You're basically like an agent, and he kept that a secret. And it made me think about something. Who else behind the scenes has been raising money for the IDF, drafting speeches for Israeli ambassadors? Who else behind the scenes has been doing this and not telling people about it? Because at this point in time, you know, and I believe in giving people grace, but damn, at this point in time, ain't no way you can't sit back and see what Israel was trying to do. So that in itself, oh boy, everything is coming out. Everything is coming out, folks. But the regulators, those are the people you really got to be wary of because they try to oversee a certain situation. That's why when he looked at Dave Smith, he said it that way. You've never been. Probably would have been helpful for Joe Rogan and Dave Smith to know that this guy was raising money for the IDF so they could push back and say, well, we know that you've been because you've been raising money for the IDF. He was there as a mouthpiece for the IDF, not just for Israel. So you have to be careful. You can't open the door to everybody. You can't extend an invitation to everybody. You do have to be careful. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. MC said, never been. Oh my gosh. Oh boy. Ashura says that have you ever been guy? Yep. Thank you, Kenman. Douglas Murray says, hello, Clarice. Thank you, New York Varsity. So if your conversation breaches expertise, you either not talk about it or say, I'm not an expert, but I have an opinion. That's called being a person. And thank you, Tuxedo. Sabby, it's only 200 troops in a support capacity. Nobody should be there. They shouldn't be there, period. And if you believe that that's all they're going to do, I don't know what to tell you. I've seen that story before. Okay. Do we have Rockfin? And then we'll get to the last story. All right. Thank you, Roger. What I've seen with New York State and California is this whole turnout thing so far is a myth. What I found that the same number of people came out to vote every time for those 3 ballots I just mentioned, with presidential being highest. Only half the amount of registered voters in New York State vote in the presidential. A little under half for the gubernatorial. New York State had at one time 14 million registered voters. I saw the same thing with California. Sabrina, I just checked just now, and we lost 2 million registered voters. We are now at 12 million registered voters. I'm going to go through each and every state all the way back to 2008 to see if I uncover the same. I will let you and the audience know my findings when it's done. That's an interesting project. You know, some of that could be because people moved. People left New York. Could be part of it as well. Very interesting. Okay. And now for our final story, ladies and gents. So everyone has been following what has been happening with Candace Owens and the text that she revealed. We talked about that a couple of days ago. But now it appears that she has made it public that she has prepared some type of a list that if anything should happen to her, she has given this information to said journalist, a journalist that she trusts, to release this information. Let's start with that before we get into the Alex Jones of it all. So she said here on X, expanding the network, Tate Brothers, Dave Smith, Max Blumenthal, Tucker Carlson, Mel is Village Crazy Lady I was telling you guys about before, and more will have legal files and personal text messages related to my time at Turning Point, PragerU, and Daily Wire, plus my private conversations with people like Seth Dillon and Dave Rubin. These people have my explicit permission to release everything publicly if anything happens to me. Charlie's death and the audacity of the people like Josh Hammer eulogizing him means we must all share information and let the truth rise up. So let's see what she said here.
But I went ahead this week and sent around a life insurance policy of sorts, a package rather, to people that I trust, a package filled with text messages, emails, private communications, videos, and private legal documents. So if anything happens to me, you guys will know exactly who it is that has been making my life a living hell over the past couple of years. People that are trying to bankrupt me, trying to bankrupt me and my family, that are threatening us to sue us. Everything that Kanye said was so real. Okay. I'm now at that point where you look back and you go, man, Kanye was right. He was really saying something about what it takes to leave, to fight for custody of your own soul. Just leave me alone. Let me say what I believe and you say what you believe. Fight fair. Why do you always have to make this threat to bankrupt people? And I want you to know that those people, if anything happens to me, they have my explicit permission to release it all, detonate it all, expose all of these people in politics and in the movement who behave like this behind the scenes. It's necessary. And I highly recommend every single person that is out there that has a platform and is going through things and is scared, do the same. Send everything around to about 8 people that you trust. And I mean, I've ranged it. I sent it to journalists, text messages and screenshots to people ranging from Max Blumenthal to Andrew Tate. They won't know where it's coming from.
So I would hope that Candace has security. And I told you guys before, like, I don't agree with Candace on most things politically. I don't. I have not been fond of many of the things that she said about Black people over the years. That being said, at the same time, it seems like there's an all-out attack on her because she revealed those messages and because she wasn't willing to let this go. The death of Charlie Kirk, all these people that she worked with before, Turning Point USA, Daily Wire, Dave Rubin, seem to be coming for her now, right? I will say this. Don't agree with her the most politically, but if she wants to take down Turning Point USA, the Daily Wire, Dave Rubin, honey, I'm here for it. Okay? Take them down. Take them down. I am here for it. PragerU, apparently she has more text messages, which I believe she does. Because let me tell you something, okay? You cannot underestimate women. Do not underestimate us. Ever, 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 ever. Do not underestimate. There is nothing worse than a woman scorned. I'm telling you now. We can smile. We can be as sweet as pie. But you cross us. Some of the women in the chat like, and it's gone. It's all gone. Now, she also went on to say apparently that Kanye also had some messages. Listen to this.
Yesterday, and which got picked up, was to create a kill switch, right? To realize that Kanye was kind of right. Never too late to say that Kanye was right. Kanye said that in order to be free, you had to violate these contracts. You had to recognize that your voice is being controlled. And Kanye did just that. It was really an act of bravery to free himself. But I have no doubt that the same people that were torturing Kanye, the same people that were torturing Charlie Kirk, if Kanye died today, would be the first to eulogize him. I feel that. I do. I feel that. And I think it's important to share that information, as Kanye sent me all of the messages of people who were threatening him. I have them all. To information share with Max Blumenthal, with people, people all over the place, to send a package and say, if anything happens to me and it looks suspicious, release it all. It's not even about having an opposite and equal reaction. I want it to be an unequal reaction. I want it to be a mistake because it catalyzes people waking up and learning exactly how this matrix works. And Alex Jones, I brought this up on his show, my kills.
The kill switch thing. Yeah, I personally wouldn't have named who I sent that information to. To each its own, but I wouldn't have dropped any names. I would have just said, I have information that's been sent to multiple people, but I wouldn't have dropped the names. But that being said, Alex Jones, finally, he decided to say something about this. And like I said, it seems like all those people have kind of turned on her. All the people that were all grinning and smiling up in her face. Let me tell you, this industry is very interesting. People will grin and smile in your face as long as you move the way they want you to move, as long as you do what they want you to do. But the moment you start to pivot, then they become your worst enemy. Candace isn't the first that this has happened to. There have been other, I don't want to tell their story because they talked about it on the Spaces one time. I don't know if they want to tell it on YouTube, but I do know that there have been other women, other Black women that were a part of the Republican Party that were in the media space, and they turned on them too. And once they decided that they turned up, Ben Shapiro as well, once they decided that they turned, that was it. You were kind of like blackballed. You couldn't get into those events anymore. You couldn't go to like those engagements and stuff like that. So Candace is not the first one that this has been done to. And it doesn't have to be anybody. It doesn't have to be a Black woman, but they'll do it to anybody. Anybody who's been right there with them, lockstep the whole way through, and decides, you know what? I don't agree with you on this. Obviously, the Israel issue that's a hot one, a big one, especially for the Republican Party, because the evangelical Christians are more likely to be pro-Israel, right? So they really need that base. And so when you have someone who is Christian and they turn and say, no, I don't support what Israel is doing, they see that as a problem. And then them and everybody got all knives out coming after you. The same people that she, spoke at conferences with, she was close to, probably met their family and all those types of things. Those same people turned just like that. And very quickly they were like, Candace who? Ben Shapiro, don't even want to talk about it. I can't talk about that, Charlamagne. Don't even want to talk about it. But Candace seems to be doing really well. Can't talk about that, Charlamagne. That's how quickly people will just toss you to the side. But Alex Jones had decided to come out in defense and support Candace here. So let's hear what he said.
Again, I've known Candace since she exploded on the scene, because we were one of the first to ever get her on. And how she woke up in the leftist cult, and she caught liberals that wanted to control what she was doing with the social media thing she launched. Jussie Smolletting her, sending her white supremacist threats and all this, and found out, because they messed up and left some of the metadata in there, that it was the feminist group that was trying to take over her organization. So that was kind of a wake-up call for Candace. And there she is. That's like 9-10 years ago, or longer. So she has a lot of credibility. She's a very truthful person. I disagree with some of her views and overall solutions she might come up with, but we all disagree. I mean, I'll have one opinion a month ago and kind of change it a month later. But we're about 95% aligned. But on integrity, she's 100. And boy, does she lay the traps for him. She comes out and says, yeah, Charlie was calling me, wanting me out of his events, again, and all the rest of it. And he was also really concerned about the Israel lobby coming after him. And they said, you're a liar. Charlie doesn't like you. Charlie didn't like you. Charlie didn't call you. He didn't text you. And so she let him say that for a few weeks and then released it.
And let me say something about that. We were talking about the women thing, right? Women always have a card to play. I call it the Uno card. And it's one of those times, it's like, I can't speak for dudes because I'm not a dude, but we always have a card to play. And it's one of those things, it's like we have that Uno card in our back pocket and you may never see it coming. And there may be times where we hit rock bottom and we're down and out. And just when you think that's it, we pull out that Uno card and we go, Uno, bam. We always have a card in our back pocket. And so that's what she did. And she basically kind of taunted them in a little bit and said, oh, yeah, go ahead. I dare you to push back on this. I dare you to say it's not true. And then they fell for the okie doke. I mean, come on. They fell for the okie doke and started saying she was a liar. Josh Hammer wrote a whole article about it saying she's a conspiracy theory nut, doesn't know what she's talking about. And when they least expected it, she pulled out that Uno card and said, Uno. Some guys haven't heard this. And I don't know. Maybe one day I think guys will figure this out. We always have an Uno card. There's a movie you should watch that shows that. It's old school. It's Roseanne Barr and Meryl Streep. I forget the dude's name that's in it, but it's called Rose something, Queen of Rose. I forget. Something Rose. Somebody knows what I'm talking about. You've seen that movie before, but it's Roseanne Barr and it's Meryl Streep and Roseanne Barr. She-Devil. Thank you. I knew someone would know. She-Devil. That's a good movie to watch so you can see what I'm talking about with that Uno card. Because just when he thought that Roseanne Barr was it, she couldn't do anything else, she pulled out that Uno card.
The text. And then she said, yeah, he was really upset with the Israel lobby and said he was breaking with them entirely. He wouldn't be bullied by them. In the weeks before he was killed, they said, you're a liar. That's not true. So she released those 2 days ago. And now she says she has the proof, and it's text messages, that he feared for his life in the 2 days and the day before he was killed. And predictably, they're already saying it. She's a liar. And then she's going to release those. And she's also sent out the dead man switch, just like James O'Keefe did to myself and a few others right before he released the stuff on Prince Andrew, which is dangerous, by the way, proving that he indeed raped the girls and covered it up. People are like, we already know that. How's that daring? Oh, you're going to release the total proof on the King of England's brother? Yeah, that's dangerous. So those of you saying O'Keefe doesn't risk his life and all the stuff he's been through and been arrested and indicted and raided, try putting on his shoes for a while before you sit around and say that he didn't do anything. Man's a champion. But the point is that this is a real dead man switch. She has sent out it to the Tate brothers, Dave Smith, Max Blumenthal, Tucker Carlson, and others. Well, I'm trying to get her on for weeks. I'm a little bummed out she didn't send it to me. Because I'd like to stand with her, but we do stand with her. So they're already out saying she's a liar. She's going to release that.
So Alex Jones is saying that he does stand with her. So that's someone who is coming forward, right? That's someone on the right who is coming out and saying that he supports her. Have you guys heard anybody else yet? Because I haven't really. You can let me know in the chat if you had, but obviously the Turning Point people are not in that plan. But he's coming out and saying that he does stand with her. Paul said Alex cannot be trusted. There could be something to be said about that, but I think it would probably make her feel good to see that somebody over there is in her corner, right?
Now, this doesn't prove Israel killed him or a lobby around that. Because I've seen no evidence. They said his security detail was Israeli. They weren't. It was just the first knee-jerk reaction. I said, you can certainly say Israel's a suspect, but I said, I need to see proof. We need to figure out the ballistics and who really shot him and all that before we then, start saying, okay, motive. I mean, you can always look at motive, but first with the forensic situation, are they covering it up? What's the ballistics? That's just where I am. I'm not going to just say something because people think it. But when she releases this, and she's got it, make no mistake, just like she keeps bringing the goods, and she just sets the hook with the worm on it, or puts the mousetrap out with the cheese on it, and they come out and say, you're a liar. And she goes, boom, you're a liar, boom, you're a liar, boom, you're a liar, boom, bam. So, and she'll let them, for a week or so kind of stew and say she's a liar, and then she'll just release it. And then what she's saying is, you kill me, it doesn't matter, it's coming out. And the word is, he specifically thought Israel was going to kill him.
Yep.
Even Michael Savage first a few months ago said, Netanyahu needs to go on my show. During the break, he goes, man, I hope Mossad doesn't kill me. Cruz saw it. It was on the feed. He didn't say it was off record. But it was during the break. So there are a lot of groups that want Charlie killed. He was defeating the Democrats with TPUSA, got over 2.5 million people to vote conservatively for Trump, was moving the needle big time, more than anybody with young people on colleges. So I see them as the motive, and they said, we want Charlie dead. And they said, they celebrated when he was dead. He had like 6 Trantifa say Charlie will be dead tomorrow. Then they said, see, we told you. And that was in the town.
Now, I'll just say this, considering everything that has happened in this country, I mean, it just doesn't surprise me anymore. That's why when people first started saying like their position on it or what they thought happened, I mean, I think a lot of us don't think that Tyler Robinson is the shooter. I didn't see any video footage of him carrying the gun. I see him getting off the roof of the building, but I don't see a gun. I mean, if we were in court, how would that even hold up? So there's that. But I understand, like, when we look at all the things that have happened in this country, how people have just been taken out, and you see those text messages, so you never know. And I told you guys about the group chats, and I'll say it again for those who didn't see that other video. Be very careful about what you say in group chats, because you never know who in that group chat is taking a screenshot of what you said. And you thought it was just among the group, and it was going to be private among you 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. And then there's someone there that have been taking like those screenshots. And who knows who they give them to, right? We'll go on a little bit more here.
So, we got Trantifa, the tranny Antifa, running around engaged in all sorts of violence everywhere.
Yeah, and I do not agree with Alex Jones here. I don't think this is about a trans LGBTQ issue. I really think that is a distraction. Basically, what this is all about, I told you before about the regulators. You have these regulators that are in place, and they are basically overseers. And they kind of get to decide, okay, things need to go a certain way. So sometimes that means that things may have to be shaken up in whatever way, shape, or form. And I think that we've seen a lot of that in this country. Like, I can't speak for every other country, but this country, we've seen that a lot, where things are shaken up, and it could be done to cause chaos. Some people do want chaos. Some people who are wealthy, they want people to get chaotic out in the streets so that they can justify increasing surveillance and ramping up the police state. Some people want that to happen. So to me, what a lot of this says is that it's the fact that Alex Jones comes forward and says that he supports her and other people are not. I think that says something. And I want to end on this note because I want people to understand what it's like to be pushed out of a group or organization. There are some people that have been a part of an organization or group, whether it's a religion, sorority, fraternity, you guys know what I'm talking about, cheerleading squad or whatever. And there are some that go so deep that if you choose to move differently on said issue, you are ostracized. And as I said before, I disagree with Candace on a lot politically. But we only know about the things that have happened on camera and the things that she's shown us and the things that we have publicly seen. Considering the things that we have seen publicly, what Ben Shapiro has said, how they all came after her on X and all that kind of stuff, I wonder what is happening behind the scenes, because it's usually worse. Usually what is happening behind the scenes is worse. And that part we probably will never see. So just because she was fired from the Daily Wire and they cut their ties with her, that doesn't mean that the communication stopped. See, this is something people need to understand. When people leave some of these organizations, even when people leave some of these, religions that feel cult-like or whatever, there seems to be this idea that once you were so deeply entrenched in it, they don't really want to let you go. It's like they let you go, but they're still going to mess with you. They're still going to fuck with you. Even though you're gone and you're no longer their problem. They still take issue with you. So one of the things that she said is that people were suing her and trying to bankrupt the family and stuff like that. That's one of the ways they'll come after you financially. Or they'll just try to torment you personally. Personal threats, all these types of things. So it's just, and this is another reason why, like for me, I've been a part of like organizations and things like that before. And that's why I'm very, very hesitant nowadays to join something new. But with some of these groups that have this attachment to these big money donors, these people are not playing around. These people do not invest millions or billions of dollars into your project just because they think you're cool or they think you're nice. They're doing it because they want something in return. And because Charlie Kirk did seem to grow the youth support for the conservative, movement, for the Republican Party, him walking away from the pro-Israel movement would have definitely been a buzz kill for Israel and for the Republican Party. Now, I don't know who did this, but I don't think it was Tyler Robinson, because I ain't see Tyler with no damn gun. But when you put all the pieces together, I think maybe one day this will all be exposed. But when you put all the pieces together, I think what this points to is that the people who are the regulators, the people who are overseeing these things, these situations, these people want a certain status quo. They want things done a certain way. And when you get involved with these people, they don't let you go so easily. So these are things I think that people really need to think about. And it's not, don't focus on the money, because for me, that's why I stay independent. Don't focus on the money. People will come and offer you things, but it should not be that important that you say, okay, I really want that money, so I'm going to take this. Be careful what you sign. Be careful what you sign on to, and be careful who you take money from, because these people are not playing around. And we all know, I told you before about the billionaires, we all know corruption follows them. They have a lot of control. They are the regulators. They oversee a lot of things. These are not people that you want to get in bed with. And at the time, it may sound like a good idea. Glenn Greenwald talked about this when he started The Intercept, that at the time he thought it was a good idea that a billionaire wanted to invest in his project. But later on, he started to realize, no, this is not a good idea. They're trying to tell me what I can and cannot publish. So always remember that, guys. Remember the regulators. Stay away from the big money, and I think you'll be all right. But Alex Jones kind of standing up there for Candace and supporting her when all those other people that claim to be her friends have walked away or calling her names and all that kind of stuff. It's like when someone gets kicked out of the sorority, or when someone gets kicked out of the fraternity, or someone is no longer a part of the cheerleading squad, someone leaves the mob, like these types of things, this type of mob mentality. Sometimes it makes you wonder, is it necessary for people to always be part of a group? That's something to think about. Sit on that, let that marinate. that is it for me tonight, ladies and gents. Eric's going to come in and read the rest of the super chats, but I think we got that poll. Yeah. Hey. All right. Do you believe the ceasefire agreement will last? We have 3,789 votes. 3% said yes, absolutely. 79% said hell no. 18% said I'm hopeful. Interesting. All right, guys. Eric's going to close out the show. And don't forget your Uno card.
Before you go, and before you go, there's one chat question I want you to see.
Sabby, did Candace send you? No, I don't have any community. Yeah, I don't even know how to get in contact with Candace.
I thought that was funny though. Did you get a packet?
That is funny though. No.
And then people
All right,
ask like, would you interview Candace if you could get her?
I don't have any contact information.
No, but if you could.
I don't know. Why do people want to do that? I don't think that would be a good interview. I really don't.
Could be interesting though.
I don't think it would be good. Because I'm not because the thing is, it's like the person who reached out to me and asked me if I was interested in interviewing Marjorie Taylor Greene. And they were just basically like, if you only stick to this one subject. I'm like, no, I don't put limitations on what I'm going to ask people. Right. So if I were to have like an interview with her, like, I'm not going to be like Stephen A. Smith and all the rest of them. I'm going to ask questions like, why did you say these things? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, that's why some people won't come on here.
All right. There you go.
Yeah. Alrighty.
All right.
Bye.
We'll let you go.
Have a good weekend, guys. Don't forget your Uno card.
Always remember that Uno card. All right. So, we're going to let Sabby close, head out a little early here. I'm going to do the show close. Eric T. Red here coming from the background into the foreground. One of the things with the whole thing of like what happened to Charlie Kirk that I like to point out is that regardless of how, whether, there were governmental forces behind that or not, our demands are basically the same, and that's why I always say we should try to put this into clear demands in that, whether it was a single shooter or a government or whatnot, like we have to decorrupt our government to do anything about it. If we had a decorrupted government, right? If we had a government we could halfway trust, they could do a real congressional hearing. They could dig into it and kind of get to the bottom of it. Similarly, with Israel, Gaza, there's, whether or not Trump gets Bibi to tamp it down or not, I guess it would be better if he did, but that's not the answer, right? The answer is to get Trump out, to get Biden out if he's back in, or the next Democrat, and to get somebody in who doesn't work for the billionaires, who works for our interests and not the billionaire interests. There's an article on the 11 Demand Substack called "It's About Interests" that I would encourage people to check out just on that subject. That it always comes down to interests, really, and our demands are that we have a government that really represents us, that works in our interests and not in the billionaires' interests. Someone in the chat was saying when it comes down to like what the Freedom Flotilla and they're doing, right? We have this demand of we need to feed people in Gaza. We need to not be killing them and genociding them. But what's the enforcement? And my answer to that is the enforcement is us. We need to figure out how to have a mass movement based on clear demands. And if we get enough people making those clear demands, we might be able to get somewhere. If we don't get a lot of people making those clear demands, then I don't think we're going anywhere. But I'll just put that out there. As always, check out 11demands.org for more. We'll be talking more about this on the show. But let's see what we got for some super chats. Thanks for this super chat. NY Varsity Sports, he says, Rogan has gone through great lengths to not have an agenda, given driven guests, 2,000 episodes, and maybe a handful. And thanks for this one, Vinyl Idol. Candace called out Trump and Zionists hard today. And thanks for this one, Kenman, who says Alex Jones, a billionaire in the opposite direction. And thanks for the super chat, OJ Pimpson 22. Conservative Sam Kinison hasn't been the same since he got sued by the parents of Sandy Hook. And thanks for this Flower Bro, who says Kansas can go to whatever for real, but you should hella have her on as a guest, Sabby. Well, I mean, it would be an interesting conversation potentially. But I mean, I can also see Sabrina's point that, it can also go off the rails, and you can end up with something that's just more of just like there are some people, if you did have them on as guests, they're just going to talk over you. They're just going to be push. So it can go either way. Thanks for this super chat. Kufanya, I think I'm probably not pronouncing that right, but anyways, who says, love your platform, have Candace on, please. And thanks for this one, William, who said, she knew not to send Alex the switch, he's ops. And thanks for the super chat, House. I don't trust these people. They believe in every conspiracy theory except for conspiracy against Black Americans. And thanks for the super chat, Russ. Good evening, Sabby. Great advice about what you're writing online and on social media groups. Keep speaking truth to power. And thanks also for this one, Russ, who says, keep up the great work as well. Your voices are being heard and you are making a difference. Thanks for that. And I think we have a bit more on the rock fins. Yeah, let me just cue that up here. Yeah, that should work. All right, looks like we've got one more out there. There we go. And thanks for this tip comment on Rockfin Roger. Now, does that seem like a wise thing to do? Hey, Zionist, I'm going to tell you who I sent the list to in case something happens to me. Why not just say I sent it to various trusted sources who I know will put it out there? I'm not going to tell you who. I'm not going to tell you how many. I know Max and all those other people are like, great. Now she put my life I know Max and those other people are like, great. Now she put my life in danger. Really wise move. Candy. All right. Let me move that, back to that. And we had another chat come in here. Thanks for this one, Waffles Bacon, who says, boycott BlackRock. There you go. Not a bad idea. I think also with the Kansas stuff, it is kind of a lot of drama. It seems like a lot of drama seeking. And this kind of whole thing of, the dead man switches out there. I don't know, it frankly seems like a bit on the drama side to me. If she has, serious information, she should be reporting it or giving it to reporters. But in any case, I think we're going to wrap it up there. Let me get this media asset ready. Yeah. So like I said, always make sure you have clear demands, MCDS, money corruption demand solutions. Whenever you look at anything, whenever you look at any of these things, just try to say, what is the demand here? And that'll take you to the solution. Meanwhile, as our Sabby says, have a good night and keep up that fight. And we'll see you next time. I think we'll have our next live show Sunday at 5. We will see you all then. Thanks, everyone.